Did you know that people who attend church 1 to 2 times a month has declined from 34% to 28% of people? So let's talk about why in this video. A study by the Institute of Family Studies has found that people attending church 1 to 2 times per month has declined from 34% down to 28%. And after reading that study, I came across an article by Ryan Burge that I shared in my weekly newsletter, On the Rise. That's a newsletter where I share my top insights from the week. And the article from Ryan Burge basically says you can no longer assume that someone who says they're an evangelical will still go to church. In fact, there are as many non-attending self-described evangelicals as there are mainline Christians in America. Let me say that again, okay, because that's nuts. There are as many non-church attending self-described evangelicals as there are mainline Christians in America. I mean, that blew my mind when I read it. And the trend isn't going away. In fact, it's accelerating. It impacts, if you think about it, almost every church, regardless of size, denomination, or even location, and really changes the mix of people that you're trying to reach. It probably also marks a seismic shift in how the church will do ministry in the future. Of course, let's be honest, high attendance is never the goal, okay? The goal is not just to fill a room, it's to fulfill a mission. But your attendance shouldn't be ignored because it's a sign of something deeper that every church leader is going to have to wrestle with over the next few years. The first key to addressing what's happening is to understand why it's happening. And that's what I want to cover in the rest of our time together in this video. So why are even committed attendees attending less often? Reason number one, greater affluence. Believe it or not, even with high inflation and crazy house prices, greater affluence is impacting people's church attendance. You see, money gives people options. And if your church is at all engaging the middle class, the upper middle class, or a suburban demographic, an interesting trend is happening right now. The true middle class is shrinking because more of the middle class is becoming upper class or lower class. There are simply more affluent people than there were even a few decades ago, which explains why so many average people indulge their obsessions. They want the perfect HGTV, Pinterest-styled home. They want great cars. They're taking vacations on a regular basis, and they have the lifestyle of the mega wealthy, even when they're not mega wealthy. Now, naturally, this leaves a huge theological vacuum, a void about ministry and how to deal with people who are affluent and how to deal with the poor. But it also helps explain what's actually happening in the suburbs and increasingly with the reurbanization of many cities as the affluent move back downtown. I'm not arguing that this is the way things should be, but if you look at the number of younger people who are traveling, millennials who have an affluent lifestyle, I'm simply showing that this is what appears to be happening in our culture. Again, people with money have options. They have technology options, they have travel options, and they have options for their kids. And arguably, that affluence may be one of the factors moving them further away from a committed engagement with the mission of the local church. Not saying it's right, just saying it's true. Here's reason number two, self-directed spirituality. People are looking less to churches and leaders to help them grow spiritually and more to other options. I mean, think about it. We live in an era where no parent makes a visit to a doctor's office without having first Googled the symptoms of a child's illness and got a recommended course of treatment for the doctor. Just ask any family physician. Kind of drives the doctors nuts. But when was the last time, okay, forget medicine for a minute. When was the last time you bought a car without completely researching it online? Well, believe it or not, people are doing the same thing with their faith. In an age where we have access to everything, more and more people are self-directing their spirituality, and that is for better and for worse. Another characteristic of the postmodern mind is declining trust and reliance on organizations and institutions. The church, in a lot of people's mind, is seen as just another institution. Now, I don't actually believe that's what the church is. I think it's a movement. I think it's from Christ. It's not an institution. But if you look at it, that's what a lot of people think. And some churches behave like an institution, and the postmodern mind instinctively moves away from it as a result. And now for reason number 3, people are attending church less often: failure to see a direct benefit. This one's tough to look at, but let's be honest. People always make time for the things they value most. If they say, I don't have time for it, it's usually a smokescreen for, I don't want to do it. And if they're not making time for church, that tells you something. Now, even among people who say they love the church and who might say they love your church, if declining attendance is an issue, chances are it's because they're not seeing a direct benefit. They don't see the value in being there week after week. And what you're discovering often, or what a lot of church leaders are discovering, is that what used to connect no longer connects. So what do? Well, you either change or you settle for reaching fewer people. Now, the good news is there's a generation that's sick of hype and is ready for something deeper. And I think if you elevate the 3 things I'm going to talk about next, you're probably going to see deeper engagement and greater attendance. First, they're looking for less presentation and more presence. You can spend $1 million on audio, visual, and lighting. It's not going to result in 1 million more people. I mean, you got to have certain lighting, you got to have proper sound. I get it. But if you're going to sink $1 million into something, don't necessarily sink it into that. And if what you have is good enough, all right? What they're looking for is a little less presentation, a little more presence of God, authenticity from you, the presence of other people. They're looking for a connection. So less presentation, more presence. Second, less noise, more space. All right. We are so programmed. People don't get a break. Their heads are buzzing. Their phones are buzzing. I mean, we don't get any silence in culture anymore. What about if you created space? Space for people to slow down. Space for people to connect with God. Space for people to reflect, to confess, to pray, to think. You see, if your service isn't just a bunch of noise and a bunch of hype, and you actually create some space for people to have a real, authentic connection with God, I think they're going to be drawn to it because it's an alternative to the culture, not an echo of it. And then the third thing, less head, more heart. Now, I'm giving you bullet points in this video, okay? I'm a head guy. This is what I think about all the time. But I think what people are looking for is a connection with your heart. They're looking for a connection, some vulnerability on the part of the leader, an admission that I don't always get everything right. They're looking for their hearts to connect with God and connect with people. So a little less head, a little more heart, a little less noise, a little more space, a little less presentation, a little more presence. That's what the next generation, and for people who are disengaging in church, are looking for. And that provides a direct benefit, because when people fail to see a direct benefit, it always results in declining engagement. So the question becomes, what are you going to do or not do that leaves people feeling like there's not much value? Flip it, make sure there's a lot of value there, and I think you'll see people attend more often. See, all these trends are a witness to something deeper. And what's deeper is our culture is shifting and it's changing rapidly. So church leaders who fail to recognize this aren't able to capitalize on the changes enough to respond and to actually adjust course so that you're accomplishing your mission. What I've learned over the years is that change is unkind to the unprepared. So prepare. And I hope this video has helped prepare you for what you're facing and where you want to go next.